Hi there guys, Sam here. Yeah, you joined me in the Golf R, and yeah, just to go through a video just on kind of like 6 kind of simple ways you can kind of save economy in your Golf R. You know, how do I save fuel in this car? And this kind of does combine for all kind of cars in general really, but kind of a bit more particular around the Golf R. Yeah, but just quickly before I start, thanks so much for the support, and you know, please subscribe again to my channel if you're enjoying these videos, and the likes and the shares is is really appreciative. But yeah, I'll get straight into it. So the number one thing is actually to allow a bit of warm-up time. Now there's always some some weird myths actually around you have to kind of on a cold day to turn on your car and let it, you know, heat up. But actually when a car's on idle, it doesn't actually heat up that much, surprisingly. You know, there's nothing wrong with sort of being a really cold day, you starting your car and you driving off. The warm-up time is more around not thrashing your car. It's just taking it easy. And actually, funny enough, starting your car and getting moving earlier is actually one of the better things to do, because an engine on cold is actually not that healthy. You need to keep moving. You need to be sort of getting the engine up to temperature. The quicker you can do it, the less wear. And the quickest way to do it is actually by just moving and getting going. And it's quite a big point, because if you hammer off, particularly in a car like a Golf R, and you fly, you cane it, not only are you going to cause problems with wear, you're actually going to waste your own money. You're going to waste fuel, and it's really easily done. Now the EA AAA engine on this Golf R and on other kind of VW group cars is actually really good, because it's got a really fast warm-up time, and it actually stays hot for a long time. And yeah, it's one thing I've noticed really early on from the ownership, how hot the car is actually. I mean, I can remember if you go on sort of like an hour drive, sort of coming back to the office, coming back to the car even 2-3 hours later, the engine's piping hot. I always was a bit worried about it, but in general it's just a good characteristic of the engine. So it does help prevent wear. And again, it all just helps economy. It gets the car up to sort of operating temperatures, and that's kind of that's the first thing that I kind of say in terms of just a way to save fuel. Number two is actually around braking. So say on a car like this, you got big brakes, big discs, immense stopping power. It's a heavy car as well, you know, 1500 kilos or whatever. That's where you're going to lose a fair amount of your fuel. If you're constantly on the brakes, you're hard on the brakes, you're not on, you know, you're going to waste fuel. Simple as that. Now, because the discs are so big on this, you don't actually need to sort of apply the brakes particularly heavily, particularly on day-to-day use. You can do a lot of light braking to save fuel, and in best case scenarios you don't have to brake at all. You can kind of just coast a bit. If you're constantly heavy on the brakes, you know, it's just going to cost you fuel. It's the energy used for braking is massive, and you know, obviously then you're going to be using more power to get up to speed. So you know, be light on the brakes, be gentle on your brakes. You know, the wear of it, and particularly when they're cold as well, you know, they're not going to be as strong as they would be, and you know, you've got to be a bit careful around that. But that is just another way to save fuel. You know, be gentle on your brakes, and you know, in the long run you'll reap the benefits. Number three, again going a bit round to weight, don't always necessarily brim the tank. So it's 55-litre tank. I don't always brim it to the max, simply because if you're going to brim it to the max and you know you're just going to be doing short journeys for the week, you're not really doing yourself any justice. The car's carrying around a lot of extra unnecessary weight, and that's just going to waste you fuel. On those kind of things, I tend to do like a half tank. If I'm going on a long journey, etc., and you know you're going to be burning a fair amount of fuel, yeah, you don't want to be you don't want to constantly be having fill-ups all over again. You know, no problem in terms of filling the tank, but yeah, it's just one thing to save fuel. And again, with stuff in the car, you know, generally I'm back and forth all over the place, but keeping the weight down, don't carry unnecessary things. You know, it's all it is going to do is cost you fuel. As simple as that. You know, nothing is, you don't get anything for free. Saying that though, I've carried a couple of bikes in here, plenty of people in here, and it's not too bad for like the odd journey. You've got to think on an actual long journey or multiple journeys over the course of weeks, months, years. It's just throwing money away. It dents performance, it dents everything really. So just be mindful of that kind of thing, and it also helps to keep your car a bit tidy, albeit mine could use a little bit of a tidy up personally. But yeah, that's just my the third kind of way to kind of save a bit of fuel. Number 4, and kind of again going on for kind of the light braking, but it kind of emphasizes kind of everything. Just watch the road ahead. You know, for road driving, you know, particularly on my routes, you can actually be quite clever in terms of like hills and stuff like that. And a car like this, you can use very little throttle, and you can just kind of coast down and anticipate things. And it's ridiculous how much economy you can gain from just, say, having no throttle going down a hill and being able to sort of like not necessarily brake, not necessarily accelerate. And I vouch for it in terms of the economy that I can get out of the car. I'm determined to get it on the readout to show 45 miles per gallon on a trip. Best I've managed is 44.4, and again, pretty incredible for this kind of type of car. And yeah, reading the road ahead, coasting when you can. Well, when I say coasting, I don't mean foot on the clutch in gear or anything like that. This is, again, my experience on a manual. Still, it relates again to DSG. You can still anticipate things and be gentle on the brakes, gentle on the accelerator. All these little kind of almost taking care of the car, it saves you money. It's as simple as that, and it will get you better results in economy. So that's the 4th thing. You know, watch the road ahead, anticipate things around that. Number 5, again, a little bit around the gearbox, and again, DSG can kind of do its own thing, but for a manual, change gear early. If you, particularly with this kind of car, it really does spool up over 2,500 RPM. It'll really kick on, and that's when the turbos are sort of full whack, and between that and sort of 5.5, it's really going to be sucking in as much air as it can, as much fuel as it can, which is great when you're having a bit of fun, and there's nothing wrong with doing it obviously once in a while. There's no point of having the car if you're not going to do it. But in terms of normal day-to-day driving, when you're not really going anywhere, changing gear early, sort of around 2,000 RPM, maybe a little bit above, between 2 and 2,500 RPM, is not going to cause any problems. What can cause problems is if you actually let it bog down. So if you're in, say, 6th gear at 30 miles an hour, it's not particularly a good idea, because if you want to push the accelerator, you're not really going to go anywhere unless you slam it. And if you push your foot straight to the floor, what that's doing is it's the engine's bogged down. It's not in a state where it can spool everything up. It's not good at all for the car. So never get it sort of down to that kind of level. But changing gear early, you know, you on a Golf R anyway, it will tell you when to change gear. You can follow those guidelines. You can use your own initiative, again, looking at the road ahead. And that's a big part of saving fuel. And in a Golf R, it's so relaxing. You can actually do that and actually feel, you know, like you're not really missing out, because it's one of the real plus points of the car to kind of chill out, change gear. It's great at kind of low speed rides as well in this kind of car. So that's the 5th thing, and probably one of the main things actually to kind of save fuel as well, just around that. My final point, and not everyone's going to like this, auto start stop. So again, not every car has it. Golf R does have it. Not everyone likes it. People turn it off as soon as they get in the car, which is absolutely fine if that's what they want to do. I don't think I've ever turned it off. The only time it will turn itself off automatically is if you turn traction control all the way off. But I find myself turning traction control off sort of like halfway. So if you push the traction control once, auto start stop remains. If you hold it down to turn traction fully off, you'll lose auto start stop. The great thing about sort of short journeys with auto start stop is it's just going to save you bags of fuel. And the rule kind of around this is if you know you're going to be stopped for 7 seconds, auto start stop will save you fuel. If you're sort of coming up to a set of lights and you kind of know the routine, or you know you can pull out, and say within sort of 3 or 4 or even 5 seconds you know you can get going, using auto start stop, getting into neutral isn't actually worth it. It's not going to save you anything. You know, the time you sort of it goes, you know, the engine shuts off, the other starter motor kicks in, it will use a certain amount of fuel which won't be as beneficial during that kind of time period. After 7 seconds, you're actually in the green, basically. You're constantly saving fuel from something like that. And based on how, I mean, I can vouch for it around sort of St Albans anyway, around where I live, the traffic is awful. And I know lights which will stay on for sort of like minutes at a time, and you'll know the routine. And it will save you fuel, and it will save you money. And it's actually kind of refreshing as well. Car goes even quieter, and it's yeah, it's a big way to save fuel and to get you decent economy as well. Yeah, and that's kind of the sixth and final kind of simple things that I kind of go through to save MPG. So that's kind of an overview of it all. There's nothing really else to say other than it all does depend on your driving styles. These are just some of the things that I do, and I get great messages from you guys, whether it's on Instagram, whether it's on YouTube, like around economy, and hopefully this kind of brings a lot of it together. Every single person's different. You know, someone else could be sitting in this car and they would have never dreamed, they'd never got anywhere near even 40 mpg, and that's just the way you drive it, simple as that. And you know, hopefully if you've seen my videos, you know, I do drive this hard at times. You know, I do have fun in it, but you know, I use it as my daily car. You know, 90% of the time I'm going back and forth to work, so you know, any time I can save a little bit of money and save a little bit of fuel, I'm going to do it, frankly. And it doesn't even necessarily affect your time of kind of getting anywhere, because you're limited by speed, you're limited by traffic anyway, so it's not worth stressing yourself out about it, really. But it is very much how you drive the car. And the thing, again, back to the manual gearbox, I just feel more in control of keeping on top of those kind of things. And it's just stuff that you can save in general, and yeah, hopefully that's helped. So yeah, that's it. You know, I hope you found this video useful. You know, please subscribe, as I mentioned, like and share. Massive thanks to the support recently, particularly in the last sort of couple of weeks. It's been really, really cool to hear your comments. And follow me on Instagram as well. I've got a Instagram page which is more all really related to the car. I'll do stuff on the Golf Rs, I'll do stuff on other cars, just bits of car spotting, really. So yeah, do give me a follow on that. I'll put the details up here. But yeah, no, thanks very much for watching. Again, really hope you found this video useful, and I will see you again next time. Cheers, guys.